Hello and welcome to the Miko Bits show, and I'm your host, Miko Bits, and today we have Monty Metzger, who's the CEO and founder of LCX, the Liechtenstein cryptocurrency exchange. So he's working on some pretty exciting innovations and projects in the DeFi space, so I thought it would be exciting to have him on my show. So as with all things, this video program is opinion and information and entertainment only. It's not intended to be investment advice, so seek a licensed professional for anything like that. Just as a quick preliminary note as well, I'm an early advisor of LCX with Monty, so that's just a disclaimer so that people understand that this is not investment advice. So, without further ado, what I'd like to do is kind of dig right into it. So, hello, welcome.
Welcome, Miko. Good to speak to you finally again. Unfortunately, I couldn't invite you to Liechtenstein in the heart of Europe, but I'm pleased to join the Miko Bits show this time.
Thanks so much. And, it's really exciting. I think last time I was on your show and, we actually got to see the castle, the Liechtenstein castle. So it definitely felt like you're right there in the exciting thick of things in Europe. So what I'd love to do is jump right in. So, you're working on DeFi projects. So I'd love for you to describe a little bit about the DeFi projects and tell me a bit more, because that it looks exciting.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've seen obviously the emergence of decentralized exchanges already years ago, but now it got a lot of traction. So we thought it's the right time to launch something based on our capabilities, but leveraging what is gaining most traction. And we see Uniswap as the key kind of monopoly at the moment in terms of DEXs, and the growth had been tremendous since August. So we've taken our capacities of building an advanced trading venue with nice charting and beautiful interface and turned it into a nice dashboard and a terminal for the DeFi traders on Uniswap. And that's what we call DeFi Terminal.
That's fantastic. And is it just a single sign-on with the regular LCX?
No, it's even simpler. So it's used like at Uniswap, you connect with your MetaMask. We've taken the same concept. So you go to defi.lcx.com. You can connect with your MetaMask wallet right away. And then you have an overview of your assets. You see your liquidity pools, everything in your wallet. And then you can click onto the markets page and have nice trading view charts, even some DeFi indicators. And last but not least, and probably the most important thing, you can do limit orders based on our second layer protocol on Uniswap. So we've developed a second layer protocol based on Uniswap protocol, which enables limit orders on Uniswap.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. And so for those podcast listeners, you're not going to get to see this, unfortunately, since it's audio only. But for those of you who are on YouTube, we'd like to actually show you a bit of a demo clip that will let you understand a little bit better what this will look like. Okay, so one thing I'm very excited to understand is, what were the big kind of differentiating features that you think people should know about with respect to your DeFi products?
So, first of all, there was no limit order on Uniswap at all. You can do market trades. You can choose your trading pairs and then click on buy or sell. But you actually don't know exactly what the price will be. It will be always triggered in the market directly. So we changed that. So now, if you go to defi.lcx.com, you can go on limit orders and you can choose the price and say, like, I want to buy when my price drops, or I want to sell if it reaches a certain point. And this is done with our price discovery engine in the backend and a smart contract. So you can actually go on Etherscan and see how much total value is locked in our limit order contract. And these are trades which will be executed at a certain point of time. Our price discovery engine tracks in real time where the price of Uniswap goes, and immediately when it reaches it, the trade will be happening. So that's a convenience and also something which had been missed at Uniswap by the traders. We saw a need, and that's the core intention why we started this project. Initially, we called it actually Project Fire Salamander to give it like a nice, cool code name.
Nice.
As we develop it with our team. And then it also reflects in the logo a little bit with the Fire Salamander. But then on top of that, with our LCX Terminal, which is in the market since 1.5 years now, we've built these trading interfaces. We know how to do nice charting and things like that. So if you go on it and look at the markets, first of all, it's lightning fast. You can really go into the 1,000 top pairs by liquidity. You can go into wrap Bitcoin Cash or wrap Bitcoin against Ethereum, and the trading pair, you see the liquidity, you have a nice chart. And if you go in TradingView, there's a button called indicators. If you type in DeFi, then there's DeFi liquidity and DeFi volume, and it pops up next to the main charts. You can see liquidity goes up, price goes up, or something like that. So you can do all the charting you used to on TradingView right in the DeFi markets as well. And what we noticed, people love it, traders love it. We got lots of traction on that space, and it's an important area for us now.
That's exciting. So I love this limit order functionality. That's absolutely desirable. There's no question that that's something that people should get, absolutely, right? Because people are often doing trades, and they already have a feeling of what may happen in the future and the past, right? So even if you're just doing swaps for utility purpose, right? Even if you're just like, oh, well, yeah, I'm just swapping this so I can get DAI so I can actually put liquidity provision over here, you may actually be like, that to sometime today, it's going to be nominally better price for me. I'm just going to set it and then I'll come back. I'll come back when I'm ready to continue. So, so I think it doesn't have to even be like a pure day trader mindset to do limit order, right? It can be just convenience and maybe a little more margin, right? Just a little more DAI that you get, you squeeze it out, just to give you the edge, right? So I think that's a great function. The thing I'm really curious about is, let's think a little bit about sort of your purpose, right? Which is how did you get pumped up about doing DeFi projects? Since previously LCX was sort of more centralized in terms of the mindset.
That's right. I mean, we see both opportunities still there in the market. We see how centralized exchanges bring value, and we do believe that especially for a security token exchange, there are plenty of benefits and to do that on a centralized basis. But for the DeFi space, I think the biggest opportunity now is traction and the change in the market. And I mean, we are not stupid, and basically we're following the overall market dynamics all the time, and we're adapting to the needs in the market. We see what traders and our users really want and where is an issue, and we want to build something people love. So if you look at development in the last couple of months, there's a massive shift from going away from the centralized exchanges to Uniswap and other DEXs, but like mainly Uniswap at the moment. And that's quite strong. Like it's really a massive shift where we have some of our trading partners where our token is listed, for example, and they tell us it's incredible how like usage dropped, liquidity dropped, just like logins of users. It dropped on centralized exchanges. They suffer. And you can also see it in shift of markets. Like, for example, the LCX utility token, the main venue we had before was Liquid. Liquid is a Japanese / Singapore-based Asian exchange, sure. Tier 1, so good. But now the main market is Uniswap. So it's a LCX token, Ethereum. And by the way, it's one of the like leading and most lucrative liquidity pools at the moment. So sure. The fees you generate are quite attractive there. But in any way, we saw the shift, like from the centralized exchange to Uniswap. We noticed something, said, okay, what's going on over there? Our users are shifting. Liquidity pools are attractive to make yield and things like that. So there's suddenly traction, and that makes it attractive for any investors. You need the right tools. That's why DeFi Terminal is something super helpful. But also the kind of future development is really changing. So it has impact on our roadmap. And we are currently also evaluating how it could go with the compliance we've built, the crypto compliance protocols and the crypto compliance tools that we've set up. How can that go in the DeFi space? How can we make it in a manner that it complies with laws and regulation as well? And I think that's interesting for kind of the long-term view of the industry.
Yeah, so before we go, I have a short question, right? Which is that when we talk about sort of, the idea of there being a smart contract for dealing with limit order, right? Like when we talk about that, then obviously that contract needs to see sort of the continuous market price, right? So basically what you're saying is that the price oracle is being supplied by sort of the centralized LCX, which is sort of the price discovery mechanism that the limit order contract depends on. Is that accurate to say?
It played part, but basically it's kind of this price discovery engine. That's like how I would name it, and our development team have named it. But we look at the Uniswap markets all the time. So the contracts will be executed once you've reached the point. But these price oracles play a big role it's certainly something which is the fundamental basis of a lot of our products.
Yeah. I think that's getting a deeper understanding of that would be very interesting. But I think it's probably more of a deep dive. So if you are really looking at contracts, then you should think about oracles and kind of the oracle implementation. So what I wanted to touch on is something you said that I think is exciting, right? Which is we are absolutely seeing record lows in Bitcoin and others held on centralized exchanges. And there's obviously been a tie to several different issues, but one of them is actually a regulatory issue, which is that if you look at something like BitMEX, like obviously BitMEX exchange has had some really serious allegations, and there's even now new allegations that the BitMEX executives took $440 million or so dollars off the exchange for themselves, right? So it's obviously that exchange has a lot of people removing, but I guess to me the thing that is fascinating about the removal tendency and the shift towards things like Uniswap and the shift towards things like self-custody, I think is really part of a broader movement. And it's related to liquidity, it's related to custody, it's related to DeFi, but it's also related to the regulatory environment, is it not? So I'd love to get your feeling about this unique phase shift, because it feels like a phase shift. Like today we hit Bitcoin 15,000 USD, and so it feels like something is significantly afoot, especially as we start to see these regulatory enforcement actions like against folks like BitMEX. Like, it's something happening. So I'd love to get your take on like what is happening now.
Yeah, and I think there are two key things happening now, which are a little bit different. So first of all, I think it's convenience and speed. Because, and what I mean with convenience speed is, if you go on Uniswap, first of all, you don't need to pay a listing fee. You can, like as a token owner and a company, a blockchain company, you can just list your token there. And then this gives convenience to all the users because you know most of the tokens are there. And you can start trading them immediately. And the core reason is that you don't need to do like long logins or even KYC. You just connect with your MetaMask and get going. So that's the convenience and speed and also the variety of assets which are there. That's massive. So I think if you look at trading pairs and tokens listed, Uniswap is also leading because they have more than 2,000 assets now listed over there. And nobody has that. So that's one aspect where I think that the shift is happening. The second aspect you have been mentioning is the change in the regulatory landscape. So we are a fintech company, and like all of the crypto exchanges claims them to be a crypto and fintech company which has the fin inside, meaning finance.
Yes.
And you can't be a finance company if you don't play with the finance rules which are all over the world.
Yes.
Which means, are the tokens who are listed on your exchange, are they securities? Do you comply with due diligence, like KYC, even know your transaction, blockchain analytics, or basic ML tools? And most of the centralized exchanges, which are big out there, they're not. Like they don't do enough. They try to, but they also have a big backlog of stuff like which had been happening over the last years. It's hard to turn them around. And this year it started, and we'll eventually see more happening in next year, is that regulators have and like governance have set up rules. So there is a regulation now. There are guidelines. There are rules, and also they've built up massive knowledge. So when you speak to government officials, banking, finance people, central bankers, they all know about crypto, blockchain, everything. A lot of details. So I'm always impressed speaking to the people. And what is happening now is basically you saw that like OKX management team got into like government issues, got arrested.
Yes.
Now like withdrawals are blocked since 2 or 3 weeks. Crazy, yeah. Then the same Huobi, just like the last 24 hours, rumors popping up, same story.
Yeah.
Binance is being sued on all levels, not only Liechtenstein, but like everywhere else. They have issues, and they're just trying to go from one tax haven to the next one, and like being don't have an office and everything like that. So we see that change, and there are few who understood it early. I think like obviously Coinbase, and now Kraken getting a banking license in Wyoming. There are banks who turn around, opening up to crypto clients. And then there's us. Like we had invested over 2 years in regulatory setup. We had been going through the blockchain licensing application in Liechtenstein since January this year. We aim to get everything done in May. We're still like at the final stages of it, but it is not that lightweight and easy as any crypto company can imagine. It is a banking regulation. It's come from financial world. Yeah. And if you don't have that, you can't play in the crypto area for the long term. Yes. And and same goes with DeFi and Uniswap markets. I think it's also marketplaces, also if it's decentralized and so on. So they have some certain of responsibilities over there they have to take. And so that's why for us, the terminal is a great playground and an MVP basically to learn functionalities, but also we are exploring how could like crypto compliance and DeFi space work together. How does security tokens come in? How will the market evolve in that space? So convenience and regulation, two very important points which have to come together.
Yeah, I love these two touch points, right? Because what we've seen PayPal, and PayPal is introducing it to over 300 million users. Celsius just did a deal with Line. So Line is a really interesting company in Japan that is a messaging service, and they also have a thing called BitMax, not to be confused, which is their exchange. So they have a crypto exchange. And so to me, the thing that's fascinating is that we are seeing the beginnings of what we thought might be mass adoption. We saw a wave of what we thought could be messenger-based mass adoption through things like Telegram, which didn't come, Facebook Messenger, which didn't come, And the thing that I think is so interesting is that the mass adoption seems to be coming from Square and seems to be coming from PayPal, right? And it seems to be coming from Line, which, by the way, is already doing financial services in Japan. So you should not look at Line as a messenger. You should look at Line as a financial service company. And the reason why this matters for mass adoption is because I think that your point is perfect, right? Your point is basically that it's thin, right? So the bringers of this new mass adoption in cryptocurrencies is not messengers, because those are not financial services companies by their nature. Right. And so because of that, companies like Facebook hit the regulatory wall. They just got steamrolled by Telegram just got smashed by the regulators because they're like, you don't know how to talk to us. You don't know how to think about regulation, And so to me, I think what we're seeing is the harbinger of mass adoption coming, and I think the last exchanges and provider standing will be, such as yours, which is the regulated, right? The regulated ones will be the ones that are durable. And I think that the history I want to touch there is, if you look at the history of digital asset exchange, you kind of have to look at music. And if you look at music as a digital asset that's being exchanged, go back to Napster, right? And go back even to BitTorrent, and go back to the thing that's funny is BitTorrent is like the Uniswap of music, right? And BitTorrent continues to run, and it's still working, and everything's going, and people are kind of trading sort of dark webby things on it, and and it's evasive and hard to regulate because it's completely decentralized. But that being said, you can point to people like Spotify and say, well, that's a winning company. That's a winning organization. They're doing something different. And I think they're the ones working with the record industry. So, and I think this is even more serious. So I think that's a big point. So, I think mass adoption is definitely around the corner. So with respect to kind of thinking about DeFi, how do you see sort of the emergence of this DeFi phenomenon kind of in the longer run, right? Because I think that obviously we've seen it go up, we've seen it come down a little. How do you see DeFi in the long run?
I think DeFi on the long run will play a tremendous role, but we have to get the balance right. As you said, there's banks and financial institutions trying to get in. There's the big guys like Facebook, Line, maybe Alibaba, Alipay, and WeChat playing in the same area. And so you have to get the balance right in terms of innovation and regulatory setup, because we can't solve the kind of future finance and digital money problems with old solutions. We have to let innovation happen. And that's why I believe that DeFi will play a tremendous important role, because it's decentralizing also power, which also means you're decentralizing control, you're decentralizing monitoring. And what we already partly see with blockchain analytics on Bitcoin, that it's not the regulator who track that there's stolen Bitcoins being sent around. It's the Bitcoin watchdogs, the crypto analytic companies, and all the exchanges are flagging these transactions. So it's a decentralized control, Wikipedia controlling content. The ecosystem is controlling the kind of regulatory aspects as well. And that's pretty powerful, and might be even better than in banks, because if you look at the financial systems of today, cash is used for a lot of illegal stuff, then money laundering is happening in massive scales. Imagine there was a story of the Denmark bank, like $230 billion going through this in and out. And
the Russian money laundering.
Yeah, and it's because it's not transparent. Like, how can we see into the accounts there? We can't. But with blockchain and like digital money coming along, and then also digital securities or digitalized assets, there's actually more security, more transparency. And so we need to get a balance right between innovation and kind of the traditional old financial world. And we don't want to play the old rules and just do everything like it has been in the past, but rather experiment with technologies and just repeat, like DeFi will play a tremendous role because it shows what is possible with a decentralized financial world.
Yeah, I think that the point around regulation that's really important for the audience to understand is that the regulators have kind of what I would call their exchanges, and then the ones that they don't have any visibility to, right? And so I realize that this sounds almost like the opposite of blockchain, and people are going to be freaked out when I say this, but like, you know, in a sense, like if you look at the acquisition of Poloniex by Circle, right? Basically, the regulators said, well, Goldman Sachs invested in Circle and trust Jeremy Allaire, who's been an executive for a long time. And so, you know, for us, if you buy Poloniex, we will not pursue. They effectively issued a no action letter, which is any bad thing you did in the past, Poloniex, we will not pursue Circle, right? So in a way, it's almost like engineering mergers and acquisitions at that point, right? I mean, it's definitely for people who are libertarian, like that's a nightmare, right? For libertarians, that's kind of like the government should not be behaving as such. But why are they? And I think the thing that's important to try to understand about the mindset of someone like FinCEN that pursues terrorist financing and money laundering and criminals is that every exchange to them is like a telescope, you know, and they can either see through the telescope or they cannot. And if they cannot, they're going to bash it. They're going to try to take you out. So, you know, and I'm not saying this is a perfect world. I think your tone is much more conciliatory in the sense that you're looking for technical solutions and more decentralization, which the balance may be arrived. I mean, for me, the thing that I just want to say is that's how the regulators are thinking. Be aware, you know, and if you're running a project, just know that that's kind of what the regulators want. Because the thing that is happening is right now, I would characterize it as an existential battle over the blockchain network. And in a sense, it's everyone's battle. And I think the regulators, if you look at the long-term health of the space, the regulators are actually on the good side. And the reason why I argue that is there are bad guys on here. And the bad guys are like, and the thing that's bad about it, for example, hackers. Like, there's lots of professional hacking groups on Bitcoin, and they're stealing money from legitimate, decent people, you know, and we actually as a community don't want all of that. And the more money they make, the more they can expand and fund the criminal enterprise until such point as that takes over, right? Until it becomes like, you know, you may end up with like, you may end up with $100 billion in the pockets of hackers, right? And if that's the end game, you know, we're in trouble.
That's right, yeah. And in the crypto and blockchain community, it really is described as a battle with the regulator, but it's actually not a battle. It should be a collaboration.
Yes.
And it is often by users also said like seen as a negative thing. So if we announced a lot of things around KYC, it was not cheered. There was no celebration. Like, yeah, KYC. Everything, but like know your customer and these things, like why are they there? It is basically with overall goal of the regulator, meaning that investors should be protected. So we are doing that to play with the rules, to issue assets which are safe, like secure, so hopefully like no hack secure. So doing all the smart contract audits, being very transparent in ways, securing with kind of smart cold storage vaults and so on. But also we want to issue assets which are not a scam, not a fraud, which are reliable, and where all the information an investor needs are at like next click away. So they have a kind of a offering memorandum or prospectus or like some description. So for example, the Liechtenstein blockchain laws define how you do a token offering, whether it's a payment utility token or even security token. And the key part is this key information document, 3 pages, where you summarize what are the key terms, like what does the token do, what is the summary, and that needs to be published every time. So I think this mindset needs to change, that regulators do not want something bad for the users, but really they want to help and they want to protect the investors. And probably the last element to this, really, if we want to achieve mass adoption, this is needed. So we need investor protection, because the mass market really doesn't understand all the technical bits and pieces of blockchain and the crypto tokens. They want to invest their like life savings into things which promise or not, sometimes we're taking more risk or not, but you need to tell them, like, this is a high risk product, this is a low risk product, like a real estate, a security token, which gives like clear interest rates. This is a stacking thing, which gives clear yield. But then there are other like high risk assets, which can give you 10 or 100x, but obviously you can also lose everything. And we need to get the balance right if we go into the mass market. And there are also like KYC in that regard. Will not be seen as barrier, an entry barrier or a challenge for users anymore. It should be as convenient as looking into Facebook, for example, or other things. So it should be simple and easy, and that's what we want to achieve, to get the balance right in terms of usability, but also kind of playing with the rules and making it accessible for the mass market.
Yeah, that's, to me, one of the things I'm really enjoying about this conversation is that I think at the moment, just like was with decentralized and centralized exchange, and just with this, what happens in this industry, security tokens, utility tokens, what happens in this industry somehow on Twitter or Telegram or some very low bandwidth medium, people decide what the main arguments are and what the main dichotomies are in the space, right? And I think that, to me, it's so much better and more refreshing to talk to providers like you and LCX, because you're not so binary, and you're not like, oh, well, there's DeFi and there's CeFi and never the two shall meet, So you're really kind of pioneering the exploration of the space. And, what I wanted to highlight here is that, one example of where there was friction in what you're describing is, when Binance listed sushi, right? So this became a really controversial topic, because obviously, as everybody knows, Chef Nomi, the pseudonymous founder of sushi, basically rug pulled, or not quite rug pulled, but he took the developer fund, all of it at once. And people didn't enjoy that experience, and the price crashed, right? And so the thing that I think is shockingly evidence about this kind of like moment in DeFi, CeFi, is that, CZ's response on Twitter was basically, unless we list DeFi tokens, we will become obsolete. So that's A. And then B, he said, we don't force you to buy. Right, so like to me, it's so defensive. Like it's so interesting, and what I want to kind of contrast is what you're describing, right? Because what you're describing is something that's much more technologically and gently and logically hybridized, right? Where you have this kind of centralized and decentralized components, and they're kind of having more harmony, because I think that in a way, trying to force decentralized tokens from Uniswap onto Binance, there's friction, right? There's some mismatch. Like, somehow it's not quite, it doesn't fit. So I'm curious your thoughts about, this clash or this non-clash.
There's certainly clash, and I think my key statement, that there's a history with LCX and Binance, and I think that the clash here is already that, like we learned in the hard way, that it's hard to turn these big crypto exchanges around and make them compliant. They will never be. And they need to take responsibility of what they offer to their users, their investors. And that's not taken care of so far in the past. And I think that's where exchanges need to take responsibility, kind of make clear vetting on the assets they list, and also making sure that when they list something that they comply with regulatory requirements. That's the only way they can be sustainable. And that's certainly something where a lot of centralized exchanges really tapped into the wrong direction and made mistakes, which on the long run they probably can never just go back and delete this history and trading history. So it will be very tough for them to be compliant and regulated on the long run.
Yeah, I think there's two really big things that I think you said, right? Which is, to understand regulation, you have to understand the tempo, right? Which is the speed of regulation is actually very slow. It's very slow. They take their time, right? But the idea behind regulation is kind of that they're going to get you eventually, right? And I think the words you used were kind of, you can't erase this history, right? So the thing that's so interesting is that when you create, so for example, if you look at the birth of exchanges from ICO days, in a way, they're optimized to kind of maximize growth during those days, right? So their business processes get built around kind of really kind of shoveling the money in, right? Like really, really being optimized for growth. And the thing that's so fascinating about the regulatory world is there's also kind of a go big or go home game. Right. So, one example of a project that I think won the game was actually, basically Block One and the EOS project, right? Which is that they were deemed to have kind of potentially released something that was kind of a security, right? But the SEC settled with them for, what ended up being a fairly small amount, right? And so if you're really, really big, there are ways in which you can work with regulators and, because you can basically defend yourself. So, those are some of the parameters, I think.
That's right. There are plenty of ways, and also regulation doesn't mean limitation to the markets. It's the other way around. If you look at the ETF markets, which Goldman Sachs had been establishing in the last decade or so, they had been launching all different kind of products, and there's a wide variety of different financial assets you can invest in and different financial securities. So there's a competition there, and that's something good, which also the regulators are not blocking at all. But the way you present it, that makes a big difference. And if you look at classification of tokens at the moment in the market, it's also something very interesting, because a lot of these so-called utility tokens have a lot of features which could be seen as securities. And if they're not securities, they might classify as e-money. So, for example, there are a lot of these exchange tokens which are accepted by other third parties, meaning you can buy a travel, like a flight or your hotel with it or something like that. This acceptance by third party indicates that it's a payment instrument. It could be e-money by European law. So these are things where the classification will really play a crucial part of it. And I've discussed this matter a few times with the team from Libra and David Marcus, and then also with Jeremy Lair, who are issuing stable coins in a way. So international payment is kind of one key element where mass adoption will happen, because it's just convenient for every store, for any service provider, for any freelancer to receive the money instantly from your partner. Everybody who's paid with Ethereum, Bitcoin to partners knows that. And then there's the other element, which is more the kind of Goldman Sachs of crypto idea that securities, interesting assets, need to be tokenized. And that's where we come in and say, we want to tokenize everything which is attractive, what users want, what investors want. And we're just experimenting with a couple of things. And the first phase, which we are launching right now, is tokenizing entertainment assets, which are very passionate, emotional movies, music, maybe, and then also some kind of dream villas, like more real estate things, where you go tap into an area where the return of investment doesn't matter, like with every percentage. It's like whether you like the music, whether you like the movie or not. And that's something which is interesting as a kind of first entrance into the market. And then later, when people are more educated, it makes sense to really target their investment strategies and go into life savings or whatever and offer things. But at the moment, I don't see any good digital assets which would classify in that area. It's more speculation and kind of day traders who are going after these utility tokens.
Well, I think one of the fascinating things that we are seeing in entertainment and in this kind of passion project area is we're seeing quite a bit around things like Kickstarter and, especially in things like computer game or video game industry, right, where you're seeing these projects that are Kickstartering, and they're definitely raising millions of dollars. And the thing that's so interesting is that the investments are not investments, right? Like those are just donations, right? And that they get rewards, but the rewards are, so they're raising very, very small amounts from individual investors, right? And if you put in $20, then you get this handwritten card from the developer, but these kinds of things are related to, crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, because they're passion projects, right? So I think in a way, you're kind of like a neighbor of that, but you're closer to, kind of like, RegCF or, Reg A plus crowdfunding, right? So you're kind of a next door neighbor in terms of doing the tokenized version.
That's right, yeah. And the offerings we now do are under the new Liechtenstein regulation in accordance to this Trusted Technology Act, the Blockchain Act in Liechtenstein, but also in accordance to all the financial securities laws. And we also made it possible that US investors can come in, but there, we have to comply with, we do Reg D 506 rules. So it's an exemption, meaning that it needs to be accredited. You need to invest a certain amount of money. And there's also an extra step to prove your accreditation status. But in terms of convenience, that's part of the registration process on our platform. It's very easy to do. But I see that the opportunities in Europe in terms of regulation are actually more interesting, because you can start with a much smaller investment. The process is easier to do, but it still gives investor protection and legal clarity, both for the issuer as well as for the investors coming in. And so that's what we now have announced with STO Launchpad, where we are acting as a trusted technology service provider. That's the official name under the trusted technology laws in Liechtenstein. And we do basically everything from the token generation, the smart contract development. We work with auditors then to do the smart contract audit, but we also do the identification of the investors up to the token holder registry, where we see who's holding the tokens over the lifetime of the token. And that's all now on these kind of white label platforms which we roll out. But the key differentiator is really that we pick the project step by step in a selection process, because we feel responsible about what is issued on our platform. It's not open to anybody who want to issue, but rather we are like an investor. So it is my history as a VC comes in a little bit helpful, that we are looking at this project and say, does that make sense? And for example, for the movie we are doing now, it's just a great deal, because you get the fixed yield. It's last money in, first money out. So the movie is produced and filmed, and you can join as an investor with a quite low risk product, which is backed by the gross revenues of the movie. And so I think that's per se a interesting investment for any investor. But now it's even more easier to access and or probably the first time to be accessible to retail investors as well.
Yeah, interesting. Obviously, not investment advice, and of course, the film industry is tough. But but what I'd love to get from you is, you have a really unique kind of the decentralized arm, as it were, is kind of global, and obviously the LCX is global. But I would say that you have a unique geographic advantage. So I'd love to kind of get your hot take on Liechtenstein, and how do you see the unique role of Liechtenstein in EU, European Union, and around the world?
Yeah, I think Liechtenstein is the most exciting jurisdiction for blockchain companies at the moment. And the reason I say this is that they took, there was a workshop group and a working group with the government, a regulator who came up, and some experts like legal industry experts from Crypto Valley Association and so on, who joined in a period of 2 years to develop a framework for the growth of the token economy, which is not regulating one piece of the puzzle, but rather creating a whole value chain from the physical validator to price service providers to identity service providers, basically a variety of things which is needed to issue a token, to trade utility tokens, payment tokens, or even issue security tokens. And so that framework enables us to act as a technology service provider at the moment. So we're helping these issuers to issue their token. We're giving a platform and so on. And it really stands out on a global level as well, because there's no other jurisdiction who have such a comprehensive blockchain legal framework at the moment. There are single regular licenses which do help, and then there are the kind of old traditional licenses, what you see in the US, which are meant for other reasons or created for other reasons, and now blockchain companies are going after that, meaning either becoming a bank, a transfer agent, or a payment service provider or something. But these are not made for the industry, so they have to adapt heavily, and they can't be as agile. And being in Liechtenstein is also great. It's just it's the sixth smallest country in the world. Population of 38,000.
Wow.
So that's like a block in Soho, Manhattan, or something like that. But it's right next door, like an hour drive to Zurich, and then it's right next door to Zug, the crypto valley, where Ethereum Foundation are based, Tezos, a lot of people, developers are running around the streets. So just today I bumped into somebody wearing a Zcash t-shirt from the first developer conference they did. So it's a good technology hub. And also being between Asia and the US, you can balance both worlds in a good way.
It's fantastic. So with respect to kind of your future, maybe not quite so detailed as roadmap, but in terms of how do you see the product evolution, where do you want to take this?
So in a short format, we want to roll out hundreds of millions of dollars worth of security tokens as soon as possible, but being mindful. So we're selecting the projects carefully. We want to develop more advanced trading tools and advance our platform and to deliver things which our users really want and really use. So these are kind of the two growth parts. The underlying layer is we do that in a manner that complies with regulatory requirements. So we invest a lot into compliance and all aspects to it. But last but not least, I think Miko, the markets are going nuts. So at the moment, it's really, really bullish.
Yes.
So one key topic for us really at the moment is to do the bullish beat. So that's a meme campaign which we just started 2 hours ago, which is hashtag bullish beat. And we hired a songwriter and a producer and did a song which now hopefully will take off on TikTok and other platforms. And we want everybody to do and to dance the bullish beat. So I'm looking forward to your perspective.
I'm happy to, if you have a clip, I'm happy to pin it to the end of this interview just for audiences.
Yeah, for everything. So we opened up now to the community. We have the MP3 for download. We have some artwork, and then we just see how it goes.
That sounds like a blast. That sounds really fun. And, it's absolutely an incredibly exciting time. Obviously we're seeing the launch of the ETH2 contracts, right? So Ethereum community is bustling and excited. We're seeing things like Polkadot emergence. We're seeing things like PayPal. So there's a lot of perfect storm dynamics to what we're seeing here, and we're seeing, people moving into self-custody, and we're seeing a lot of value coming kind of, as you said, off the centralized toward the decentralized. So, I do think we're in an unprecedented time. And, obviously not investment advice, but, it sounds like you're catching the zeitgeist, as it were.
Yeah, catching the zeitgeist, that's that's a good wording, especially as we're here in the German-speaking world. Yeah, and we're doing the bullish beat now. So just creating a little bit of tension about what we do in a fun and entertaining way. And we want to also value the creators of blockchain more. We want to tell people what LCX stands for and what we believe in. And I think that the future is bright. The opportunities between the traditional and the traditional financial world and now this blockchain space are tremendous, but we need to get the intersection right to really make it grow. And that's where I think the biggest pioneers are working on at the moment. So big opportunities ahead.
Yeah, and I think that, just to remind the audience that, from a disclosures perspective, I am in an advisory role with LCX, but I will say this, is that to me, it's so exciting that you've got this kind of ability to hybridize this sort of DeFi capabilities, right, with kind of the centralized capabilities that really lock into a kind of robust regulatory framework, right? Because I think that when you really look at the long-term kind of potential winners in the space, you definitely kind of have to have the openness to this new technology, but you also have to have the kind of secure grounding in kind of finance, right? So I think that this is very unique product, and I think it has a very bright future. It's been very fun talking with you.
Yeah, likewise, Nico. It's a pleasure. And we always try to kind of under promise but over deliver, and that's kind of a German and probably Swiss mentality that we don't do so much marketing, but we just keep developing. Your insights are very valuable to us as well. It was a pleasure exchanging ideas and thoughts and the kind of passionate spirit about blockchain.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And just on a closing note, definitely send me the blockchain. Send me your meme track, and we'll roll out with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll send you the link, and then I want to see you dancing.
Okay, sounds good. Will do. I'll do my best.
Excellent.
Okay, take care.
Bye, Miko. Bye.
Hashtag bullish beat. I am bullish. I do this, I do that. I am bullish like a cat. I trade here, I trade there. I am winning like a bear. I make money, I get checks. I am trading on LCX. LCX DeFi Terminal. This is LCX.